Welcome to the 52blu podcast, brought to you by ConcertFire. Experience music. Joining us today in the studio are Mad Hawks, who have recently released their first EP, Undone. All right, well, welcome, guys. We're here with Mad Hawks, which is comprised of Maddi, who's on vocals. Welcome. Mm-hmm. And we've got Alec playing guitar and Joe on the keys and synthesizer. So welcome, and thank you for being here in the 52blu podcast. And we'll go ahead and get started. You sent me a brief introduction of how you came about. So if I understand correctly, Maddi, you had a lot of the foundation and material, and then Alec and Joe, you got involved with the project. Sorry. So explain a little bit more about how that happened, and like timelines and how Mad Hawks became to be what it is today.
Yeah, it was like a little over a year ago.
A little over a year ago.
Yeah, a little over a year. I had an internship. Maybe it was probably 5 years ago now, and with what is now the label Parts and Labor Records. Before that, I was just working for a producer, Jimmy Messer, and so I was kind of developing my songwriting and vocals on the side of that, and I didn't have a band. I was just doing a solo thing, and then I've always wanted to play in a band, but just never had. So one day I was hanging out with my friend Haley, and she wanted to go to watch Joe and some of our other friends at their rehearsal. So we brought some beer and hung out, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, maybe these guys want to play in my band as well. And then I just kept like showing up and hassling them, basically, until they complied. Just kept showing up with beer, and
Quickest way to my heart.
Yeah. And then that was a year and a half ago, I think. And then we started just hanging out, playing music together, and then I played a couple of shows, and then what did we do? We reworked the EP. We started writing and recording the EP, and
She had like the whole sound originally was this sort of 90s grunge pop vibe to it. It was very different, actually. Mm-hmm. And I was gonna play bass originally. We actually played a couple shows. I was in a dress with the bass, and the producer sat me down and looked me in the eyes and was like, "You're not gonna play bass."
Do you think he said that because of the ability, musical style?
I think it was the cut on the dress, but that's just my opinion. So I brought a synthesizer. My friend just gave me this old string synth from the 70s. Mm-hmm. And I brought it into the studio, and we took one of the songs that Maddi was working on and just gave it a go. Saw what we could come up with, and just in a matter of a couple moments, it had already kind of morphed into this whole different vibe. And from that moment, we kind of realized that there was this new direction that was really powerful, which was much more electronic bass, and taking these really good guitar-based songs and turning them into a whole different feel.
Got it. Now, Maddi, did you, on your writing process, was it all? Mm-hmm. I think, Joe, you brought the part of the answer, but is it exclusively guitar arrangements, or did you include other instrumentation to create the original tracks before the
in my writing process?
Yeah.
Well, I would just sit down with a guitar and write a song and take it to Jimmy, and then he would just handle it from there, because I can really only just play the guitar. Mm. So then we would bring in a drummer, and he would play bass and the guitar, and we'd get some keys going. That was the original process before Joe Alec has only just joined the group since
January about.
Yeah.
So all of this that's being explained,
Like
I wasn't there.
prior.
I was in the audience, like checking it out
Pre-al.
at the very beginning. Like,
Sniffing around.
Yeah.
That's gotta be a good feeling. Like,
Can I
you go
be
to a
on this
show and
tree?
like a couple
Yeah.
months later you're in that show.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty
Yeah,
cool
for
like
real.
that though.
So what was your reaction, Maddie? Being the original author of these first concepts, once Joey comes in with his part,
Yeah.
once new parts come morphing the sound until we get this final product.
Yeah.
What was your perception, reaction, both at the beginning and now with the final?
I think
thing?
it's super cool because when you're initially writing a song, it's really just an idea and like a feeling, or it's really raw. So to see everybody else come in and put their 2 cents and their ideas, it really starts to take on its own life, and that's exciting because I sort of did my part by laying a foundation, and then when everyone comes in, it just turns into this whole new.
It's really nice.
It's
nice to have that security in a band in a way as a songwriter, is like being like, because sometimes you think, I gotta write this song, I gotta figure everything out and do all the parts, and it's like, and that's stress. But then having that security, like with us, it's like, you can just kind of have a rough idea, and then we can all work on it and like take it from there to like build it into what it will become, What
it will turn
Yeah.
into. With that, in your minds right now, the musical or the creative process.
Yeah.
With the more recent work, both for you, Manny, because you went from doing it on a solo basis to now in a band, but for you, Joey and Alec, how does that creative process work now? I mean, does it feel that it's easier, that it's harder, that there are complications that you didn't have before?
I think we're still developing our creative process. I believe we've recently just kind of have come together working as a whole unit on creating, because like when I joined, the EP had already been created and there wasn't that much new material being brought to the table, and it was just like learn the songs so we can play the songs, and it was like, okay, so like I missed out on that creative process. But then now we're writing new material and kind of figuring out, okay, how can we all come together to do this, because before it was like Joe would produce or whatever, Maddi would write the lyrics, and then like I didn't really know what was going on, and then the 3 of us have been like, okay, how can we do this all together,
Yeah.
It's like, it's just always expanding and like kind of reinventing the wheel in different ways of how can we make it better and more efficient.
I think the creative process is always, every time you approach a song, it'll probably be in a different way too. Right now, writing the 3 of us, we've been doing sort of bare bones, just guitar, piano, and then expanding from there. Mm-hmm. But there's been instances where Joe has produced a really cool track and handed it to me instead of write something. So I think there's just so many different ways to write and create like a cool song.
Yeah, and from what I'm hearing, you keep it as a flow and creative process, not like some bands do get to a point where they're like, okay, lyrics first, music next, or music first, lyrics next. I feel like you guys do have a kind of like open format. Like if you have a song or a melody, you work with that, or if you have lyrics, you jump in.
Yeah, I don't think that creativity is a rigid thing. Yeah. It's really just flowing. It's always, it's not really fun if you're making it like.
When it gets rigid, it might be all right, but maybe decent,
Yeah.
Well, that's good to have. I think in a lot of bands, there does come a point where the mechanics of doing a production or any material just falls into like the same kind of pattern, and sometimes you can actually tell where you follow an artist and then this next album is just not hitting the mark, and then you start researching. At least that happens with me. I find that the creative process was different, or the producer that they use is now changing a couple things, and that does change the signature of the sound. And I think that for bands that are doing their first EP or getting new members and then exploring new methods, it's part of that finding your own creative. I don't know if it's the process in itself, but just the dynamics of being able to not get stuck in
totally
creative creative process?
I think that's a part of collaborating too. It's so easy to get stuck when you're working on a song by yourself, but when you turn to other people and say, "Oh, like shit, help! Help! This is all I've
working
got."
on this for like 3 days, and then you like show it to the homie, and he's like,
"Oh, duh.
Ding!" And like does it, you're like, "Are you kidding me?"
Do you think that? I mean, it might be a different answer from everybody here, but was being in a band, whether it was Mad Hawks, obviously, I think it wasn't the ultimate goal for everybody, but was being in a band an ultimate goal for you guys starting your musical career, or did you have different ideas or path and then it just evolved into
that? For me, I always wanted to be in a band because I always did solo, acoustic kind of music, and it was really fun, but I always, when I would perform, I'd be like, wow, this would be way more fun if I had like 3 other people on stage with me. So I've always wanted that band environment and that, the collaboration aspect of being in a band and touring and, all that energy a band brings to the stage.
Had you been in a band before, or?
No. This is my first time playing with other people, which is so much more fun. So way more fun.
How about you, Alec?
Yeah, I mean, I started playing when I was like maybe 8. I got my first guitar at like 7 or 8, maybe even younger. I don't know anymore. But I've been in bands pretty much my entire life. Like started really like taking serious lessons in like a summer camp. That was like a group of kids came together at this guy's house with a studio, and then he would teach us little songs and teach us how to jam and like a unit. So I've been doing that since I was like 10, and then in 6th grade like had a little project with some friends, and then 8th grade had a full-blown band, started playing shows like in 8th grade, like little things, and then all through high school just like random projects. And I've always done like solo stuff too, like go play coffee shops and random stuff and open for other bands if I wasn't in a band at the moment or like just couldn't make the show or whatever. But bands have like always been it for me because I like the dynamic. I like that process of being, like, oh, he's doing that, like, let me vibe off of that, because to me, it's all expressive and expression, like, oh, cool, that guy's dancing down there, I'm gonna, like, do something up here, because that's getting me off, and I'm getting him off, sort of thing.
Whoa.
Just keep it PG.
Man, you just gotta get off sometimes.
Joey, how about you?
I love bands. I love bands.
Was it a goal of yours, or did you just kind
goal?
of start? Yeah, like when you started. Was it? I need to be in a band, or you were doing your own thing and you're like, oh, a band.
Bands, yeah, it wasn't ever a goal. It was more like that just naturally would happen. I think the family vibe.
Yeah.
I'm just a big family man, I guess. And that's just the more families I can be in, the better.
I agree with that.
The more Christmas dinners I can have.
I want 4 dads.
Is there a defining moment in either of your lives that it was like, okay, music is my life, what I'm gonna do, or likewise, is it a hobby that forms into something bigger?
For me, I started playing the guitar when I was 13, and I have this very vivid memory where I wrote my first song. It was probably awful. If I look back, I'm sure I have the lyrics somewhere, but it was just really bad. But I went out to the living room and showed my parents, and I carried my guitar out there, and I remember walking, they were like, oh, that was great, honey, yeah. We're walking back to my room with my guitar, and I banged my guitar on the wall on accident. And I walked into my room, and I was like, oh, that was cool. Like, they liked my song. And I just thought, like, well, shit, that's really the only thing I'm good at, so I'm just going to keep doing it. And that was the moment where I was like, dang, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Allison,
what was it again? The question, defining moment when you knew
if there was.
Yeah.
Some people have
sure.
that eureka, like,
for sure. When I was in 6th grade, and, my best friend Anthony, who started the musical journey with me. Like we started like writing together, and he couldn't even play at the time, but he really wanted to, and he's always been a great writer, and started as like a playwright. We actually wrote a play together one time, but I just threw a guitar in his hands, and he's like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm like, I don't care. Like, just strum the thing, like, do something. And I think that, like, got him stoked on it, but we kind of, like, started writing random songs and then, like, made a pact, like, dude, we're gonna do this, we're gonna make it, or we're gonna be, like, side by side in the streets. Like, sort of like, just some stupid, like old, like, Stand By Me sort of
Two
vibe.
options in life, right?
Yeah, no, so I think it was
That's it.
then that I was like, no, music isn't just a hobby for me. It's like, I really enjoy this, and I'm the kind of personality where it's like trying to struggle, because like if I don't see any worth in something, like I'm not doing it, even if it's like not the best choice to be that way. Like, I don't know, I'm just stubborn like that, but to benefit me, like I work hard at this, you know?
Yeah, that's right. Pushes yourself.
Yeah. Like I don't see a way out. There's no plan B.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you almost
Give
work hard.
yourself a reason to like give up, you know?
Yeah.
Can't do that.
No, sir.
No. I mean, I just like playing music. I just like playing music.
Now that you've, you know, obviously, in a way, this is a very important milestone, but likewise, it's basically beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
But getting to this point, what would you say is the hardest thing to get to this point in your journey? Whether, you know, it started, the adversity was there a long time ago, or now in the project. What do you think is the biggest struggle that you would, you know, express?
It's a good
I
question.
think for me, not going to college and pursuing music was, you know, you face a lot of adversity from your parents, you know, your family, your friends' parents. They're so concerned and kind of judgmental. So breaking through that barrier of all that like judgment and everyone being concerned, and having gotten to this point where they're like, oh damn, like, you know, she's not just this girl that didn't want to go to school. Like, I'm actually have proven that this is something I take seriously, and I've worked really hard to get to this point. I think that was kind of a big one. Well, we grew up in a town where everyone went to school.
Yeah.
You know, everyone had
I went to school.
the opportunity and
Joe went to
yeah.
school.
Joe's got a degree in chemical engineering.
Yeah, seriously, Joe's a genius.
Sometimes.
Hey.
Yeah, we grew up together
putting my shirt
here in
on.
the South Bay. I didn't know Alec until really January.
I
but
met Maddi
he was-
at Erkley's in Manhattan Beach one night after work, grabbing some beers with friends.
Yeah,
That was the time.
that was the
Yeah,
night.
I remember that piece of information. All of you were actually within sort of like not the same groups, but could have known each other, but then
Yeah.
didn't know each other until recently, right?
Yeah.
I always knew Joe. We had all the same friends. We were just never, you know, close friends back in high school.
We partied together.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Yeah,
I was always not remembering.
Me and Joe always laugh about that, because me and Joe have like kind of through high school we were both in like our own DIY projects, and I don't think ever played a show together, and now we just laugh about it, like, how did that happen? Like, it's like only a mile by a mile, like square mile city, like, and we didn't ever
Managed to
play the
avoid
same
each other the whole time.
Yeah,
show.
what the
It's
heck?
pretty ridiculous, but
I think that was probably the biggest struggle that I've ever faced, is avoiding Alec.
and then I just couldn't do it.
So
Here
much
he
effort.
Now that you're able to play together and, you know, more importantly, create together, do you think the fact that you did know each other in different settings, different stages in your life, that helps, or that actually, you know, comes like, oh, wait, I didn't know you were like this, or you did this, or, you know, is there a pleasant surprise? Is it?
What I think
Yeah.
is cool is that we each had our own individual musical paths. You know, Joe was in, you know, that one in a certain group that was always playing shows together. I was always at the shows, but never in a band. I was doing my own, you know, writing alone. And Alec had his group. So we all were pursuing music in a different environment. And I think that's what makes us a good band and a good team, because we have different backgrounds within the same, you know,
it's like
the
all
same unit.
Like,
But, you know, we have the history solely because we grew up in the same town and have the same friends. But we all were pursuing music in a different way, a different environment. So I think it helps us.
Yeah.
Have you done anything like as a band now that is closer to a final product that is not in the EP, or are you still working on the stages of creating new material?
We have Delicious.
We have a bunch. All things are in different stages right now. We have one track that's like pretty much done, and then we have other ones that just are
still in the raw.
Yeah, it just
raw
depends.
phase.
You know, you don't. Our method of writing is probably as chaotic as the rest of our lives, in the sense that it kind of just all gets done somehow, and no one's really sure who did what.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see, now that the three of us are a unit, to see what the songs, how they turn out, because it's so different than how all these songs were initially written. So I think it's going to be a cool sound, be different than slightly different than the EP.
Yeah, we all have different, like, very different writing styles too.
Completely.
On like
Yeah.
sense of like melody and where a song will go melodically, where the chords will go, what the changes will be, and like sort of thing. Like we've all like been writing, I think, for like enough time apart from each other that coming together kind of has that benefit.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't really see many things as a struggle, like it's more like just a challenge.
Just part of the
It's not
process.
like hard, it's just you gotta work at it and get it done.
Do you have I don't know if it's already like a plan or idea of merging the material both before and after the EP into an album, or do you want to keep the EP as it is and then form an actual full length LP?
That's a good question.
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I always imagine just you're writing more songs and then releasing it as its own collection, EP plus 5 or 6 more songs.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing as now that the EP was prior to the three of us being together, like I think it just depends on what the next few songs we write, how they turn out, and where we're at.
The modern process doesn't necessarily support an LP as well as it used to either.
No.
Versus just writing a good song and then
releasing
it with
it,
a music
yeah.
video and everything.
That seems to be the most effective way of getting people's attention and keeping it.
Yeah, I still think that there's plenty of room for us to evolve as songwriters and like the sound of Mad Hawks. You know, like the EP was kind of like a first initial go of like, let's like try to tap into this. Let's try to tap into this vein, and like maybe the upcoming things that we write and create, maybe we'll be like, maybe we should tweak it a little bit and like change the vibe a little, because we still have that liberty, I believe, because we haven't we haven't done like 3 albums that are just like, this is the vibe, and it's like you break from that and all of a sudden your fan base is like, the hell are you doing?
That is a challenge.
Yeah.
Which actually leads me to my next question is, I don't mean to date neither me or you guys, because I think it's not that big of a gap, but do you prefer the album format, the LP format in your musical taste, and is that something that you gravitate to? Or of course now the dynamics of the music industry or music itself is much more
It's like
of
the
a
50s
single
again.
Which do you prefer in your mind or in your preference? Is it better to have the full length material?
I think both are great. I mean, but I do really enjoy full length LPs, records, just because it's like it adds, it's something that you don't really have that much anymore. Like nowadays, it's like back to like when like pop music first came out in like the 50s. It's like release a single, get it on the radio, and like that's gonna be the hit that everyone's gonna listen to for the next like 2 weeks or a month, and then someone else will come out with a single, and it's like people are just jumping. But the LP whole record thing, it tells a story. Like if it's a good record, it's a full length, you don't like skip songs on that. You just let it play B side, and because it's like a whole piece. It's like a giant painting or something from the artist that embodies, from head to tail, and gives you every emotion that they're trying to express. So it's a really true representation of their deal, whatever it may be, what they're trying to put out there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think as a musician, you understand, the art and the effort behind a whole album and the order of the songs, how you tell your story through what song goes where. So I think as a musician listening, I appreciate a full-length album, but I don't know how many people appreciate that.
Everyone's like,
It has to.
wow.
Like I look at my little sisters, and one is 20 and one's 17. And I don't think they've ever listened to a full album. You know, they have their Spotify playlist that they run through, and that's it, and that's fine. That's just
It's like
you
you
know.
can make your own album nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. You make your own
Which is
now
cool,
CD.
Actually, you know, you tailor it to you, like more so.
So I mean, let's get into a little bit more of I guess the history part here. But Maddi, you met Jimmy Messer,
Yeah.
and that's what got you into music, or were you found by him? How did that work?
My mom sold him an espresso machine on Craigslist.
Is that really the story?
Yeah. And he came to the door, and just my mom being a mother, they start talking, and he talks about how he, is into music, and she's like, "Oh, my kids are musicians." Blah, blah. And he's like, "Well, why don't you have them come by the studio?" My little brother was initially supposed to start interning for him because he was more into like engineering. And so my mom takes him up on the offer, and the studio's in Venice, and I just wanted to tag along and check it out. And we walked in, and he was working with this guy, Joe Firstman, at the time, who was an incredible songwriter and singer. And I walked in, it like reeks of pot, and I was like, "Oh, this is so cool, crazy." And my brother never followed up, and I moved to New York. And when I came back, I was playing shows over there. I was 19. I just I want to go check it out. It only lasted 6 months. When I came back, I was like, "Hey, Mom, can I get Jimmy's email address?" And I just hit him up like a week after I got home and asked if I could, come by the studio and intern. And he was like, "Yeah, I can't. I have nothing really for you to do. Can't pay you, but if you want to show up and help out, that's fine." He's like, "I'm not going to tell you what to do when you show up." So I just showed up every day, like 9 a.m. and got there before everyone, cleaned, kind of just did what I could, and then everyone left, and I would clean everything again and go home. I did that like 5 days a week for 4 years. And then one day I worked up the balls to show him some songs, and he was like, "Dang, these are actually pretty good. Let's go get some food." So we walked down the street, and he's like, "All right, here's what's gonna happen. I'm calling Charlie to come over this afternoon. We're gonna lay down all your tracks. Charlie will be on the drums, I'll play bass, you play guitar and sing." So we just recorded these 3 songs that day live, and it was super cool. And he was shocked. No, because I was just there. I didn't talk. I was just there, fly on the wall all this time. And so when he started showing all the people the records, they're like, "Wait, Maddi? Maddi in the intern?" So that's sort of how it took off. And then he's like, "All right, I want to make a production deal with you." This is pre-Parks and Labor Records. Mm-hmm. So he's like, "I want to get a deal going with you," and blah, blah, blah. And, we recorded the songs officially and started playing shows, and then it just kind of took off from there.
What was that moment where you get the sense of oh, this is a record deal, or this is gonna go somewhere?
Yeah.
Was that scary for you, or were you like,
it was,
finally I got my...
Yeah, it was really exciting. I was just kind of like, holy shit, wait a second. I had to just let it sink in, take a few deep breaths, and be like, okay, is this actually happening? Because I have just so much respect for this man. He's very talented, very kind, and so it was that moment of holy shit, I think it's happening. I think this is the moment where I've become a professional. Mm-hmm. So, and that was 3 years ago, so it's still, still work in progress, still going, but but it was really cool. It was a really cool moment.
Well, I mean, knowing that you did all that, just like you said, fly on the wall work for years, and then finally getting, going from that directly to mm-hmm. producing tracks is,
it was cool.
It's a pretty fast transition.
Yeah, I know. It was it's like day and night.
Yeah.
But it was awesome to have the opportunity to be a fly on the wall, because I would listen to the critiques that he would give to the other artists in the studio, and you know, about the songs they wrote, or you know, I got to experience all that and be able to apply it to the music I was writing and the melodies I was writing, and so I learned a lot just by being there every day, which was, you know, pretty special.
And at the time of that initial recording sessions, how many songs, if there are any, in the EP were present back then?
Bleeding Out is one that was on there, and Mistress.
Now, Fantasy is currently the promotional single. So
Yeah.
How did Fantasy come into existence? Was it something that was worked on prior to forming the band? You know, most of it, or was it mostly defined because of the band?
So, Fantasy was part of the new sound, because we had recorded these 5 songs and they were cool, but they weren't breaking through the way we needed them to. So we re-recorded some of them, and Fantasy was the first song that had the new sound. So I started writing it on the guitar, and I brought it to the studio to Jimmy, and then it just kind of became a whole different song, a whole new thing. And that was the time that Joe was being introduced to the creative writing process. So Joe came to the studio, and we had like this foundation for a song, and he came up with a really cool, like all the cool synth parts basically were Joe. So yeah, that was the like breakthrough song, like finally, like something different, something with a lot of life and, you know, substance.
Yeah, when the final recordings came to be, was that when you decided, okay, this is going to be the first single, or this is going to be the promotional material? Or, you know, did it display something else that you had in mind, and then it was just so good that you were like, okay, let's go with this? Or was it just immediately, oh, that is our sound?
Well, we were working on all the other songs at the same time, really, right?
Kind of.
Like,
we kind of finished Fantasy
and
then redid everything else.
Yeah, Fantasy was the first one to really be the new sound. And then once the other ones were done or, you know, being close to done, Fantasy still seemed to lead the charge for the rest of them at the time. Right? I think that's what's happened.
Yeah. More or less, right?
Yeah.
And then talk about the creative process and going into the video. I know that there was I guess like a lyric video before, not lyric in the sense that it's done now, but it was just the audio. And then you were, I guess, introduced to, his name is Salaryman, the director.
Yeah.
But once you start working with that, how does the concept of the material come to be? Is it, meaning, did you guys have a lot of creative license in saying how you would represent the music in the video, or was the director like, this is my idea, pitch it to you guys, and then you go from there?
He pitched it to us, which was really cool, because, you know, usually, like, typically, or at least for me, I wanted to have, you know, to create the idea and come up with it, and because I had all this vision for the song. And then when he pitched the idea, I just thought it was super cool, and everyone seemed to agree. You know, he wanted to make it like new wave French kind of, you know, throwbacky, and he
there's I mean, to me, and this might just be my opinion, might be wrong, but I even got the sense of like some of the visual like aspects that older videos like ABBA had, you know, the white background, the close-ups, the you know, the fade-ins, fade-outs. It reminded me a lot of that, and I said it as a compliment, not as a critique. I thought like that was really interesting, because in an odd way, and you know, we'll allow our audience to listen to Fantasy here in a bit, but the musical or the melody, the character of the song.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, I saw the video and I was like, you know, there's something happening here, but I didn't quite understand it. It was until like the second or third take that I was like, that's actually a very good match. Like, oddly enough, it has something that was just like, you know, very particular to it, but that in a way just it couldn't have been another way, at least in my mind, from the song and what you're seeing on screen, which is, you know, there's a playful aspect to it. There's a more like serious, and then the lyrics themselves are very, you know, they're not
as
like
lighthearted
breezy.
as the.
It's not a breezy, you know, expression that you have going on there.
Yeah, totally.
But for some reason, it works with the visual aspect and then with the rhythm and melodies of the music.
Mm-hmm.
So
Cool. Thank you.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Right. We had so much fun making it. It was a blast. It was like a 10-hour day, 10 or 12-hour day. Yeah, drinking beer.
Rammed through like a 30 rack pretty quick.
Yeah.
To me, being here and then having seen that, I know that you know it's a the video itself obviously has to have characters that, you know, people don't get to see what happens behind that, but getting to meet you guys and knowing what was in the video, I'm assuming must have been a very fun production.
It was so fun.
It was pouring rain outside.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I forgot.
Everything's wet. We're like, oh my god.
It was really fun. That was a cool experience.
Us.
Yeah.
Was that recorded here in LA or?
Yeah, it was
Fish Eggs.
Fish Egg Studios down in, I guess it's Mid-City. Yeah.
Right there on
Not Culver
Venice
City, right?
and,
No.
It's east of there.
Close to Venice and what? La Brea?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Right there.
Great tacos on the corner.
Not Tito's Tacos, right?
No, it's a taco truck, right?
That's a staple for anybody here in LA.
The El Pastor truck of the century. Guy, I don't know, chicken or something.
Chicken or
El Gallito.
It's not chicken, fool.
What does that mean?
Pollo.
What is gallito? Is the male
Rooster, I
chicken?
guess,
Oh, the
technically?
rooster.
Oh.
Excuse me. The small rooster.
Tacos.
Oh man.
Having gotten to this point, what and mostly, I mean, now that there is a core to the band, what are the experiences you've most liked so far, and also, you know, and you know, in a good way, what are the things that you haven't liked so far?
What was the most liked?
Most liked moment?
I think the music video.
That was,
And then when we had that interview, and then Dash Radio, and then got a phone call to do So Far Sounds in Santa Barbara that same day. So we weren't planning on it. We were in LA doing the interview, got a call, and just hopped in the car from there and went to Santa Barbara.
And like played a sweet little acoustic set that just sounded great, and it was so much fun.
And then drove home all on the same day. That was
with an electric
cool.
car.
The tiniest little car.
Somehow made it. God damn, I was brain.
Yeah, that was cool. That was good.
What kind of
Electric car? It was a Chevy.
we don't get paid for that.
Yeah.
Chevy, if you're listening. Now, I mean, you've got a lot out there. You've got video, you've got the EP and everything. How has the reaction been from both close friends and family, and either new fans or your original fans or people that you knew that just followed you? How has that reaction been on their end? It's
been very positive. I don't think I've gotten any bad feedback from friends, family. Everyone seems to love what we've done so far, and definitely I've generated new fans. Yeah. Which is cool.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier about getting down, getting on.
Getting on, getting off.
It's always cool.
I don't know what type of concert that was.
That was a great one. But, just like playing a show and seeing new faces in the crowd and like different people there, and they're dancing, and like you can just tell, you know, when people are moving and they're getting into it and like being one with it, like that's always cool, because then you know it's like, oh, they're into it, like, or that's a fan right there, they're hooked, you know,
we're doing something right.
Again, you know. Like that, those are always really cool moments.
We threw a music video release party.
And it was a wig party.
Yeah, you had to wear a wig to get in. And so we had probably like a good 40, 50 cool people with wigs in one house all together, drinking, having a good time. And we played the music video, and everyone like stopped talking, watched the whole thing without saying a word, and then actually like applauded after. It was weird.
Yeah, it was.
You know what I mean?
Cool.
Yeah.
It was kind of surreal for me, at least, because I've never done anything that I've been applauded for in that way.
Yeah, we played a show at a kind of a little thrown together show at Ham and Eggs Tavern a couple weeks ago, and there were these couple girls there that knew the words to Face Punch. And that was awesome because I'd never met them. I didn't know who they were. And they were like, this is the song. And they were singing the words, and that was pretty surreal. I was like, holy shit. Like, the only people that know the words
really
are my family because they've had to hear the song way too many times.
Dude, especially as like the songwriter on that, like that's such a cool feeling because that's happened to me before, like in previous bands. I'm just like front row, people are like singing the song, and you're just like, what the heck? Like,
yeah, how did you know?
Oh my god,
that's my song.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh my god, like this is where I'm at right now. Like it's crazy. That's like those are like some of the best. Like
it's hard to quit playing music after that happens.
Totally.
Yeah, because it's like, dude, I just need like to do this all over the world, and then like there's always gonna be this group of people that want to do that, and then next thing you know, it's like. Booyah, fill the Hollywood Bowl.
Booyah!
Booyah!
Yeah. And I think you got coincidentally ahead of me, but I was going to ask why it's worth it. I'm assuming it's definitely worth it for you guys, but why is it worth it?
Yeah.
I do it for the money.
Yeah, me too. It's for me that there's no other option. I haven't found anything as fulfilling as writing, completing, and then performing a song. There's really just not anything comparable to that. So that's what makes it worth it. Really, just the moments when you're not doing that is when you feel like anxious or kind of shitty. That's how you know, like, oh God, like I should be doing this. This is what I'm supposed to do. So it's worth it to me because I love to perform. I love thinking that the music that we write and the message that we put out there has a positive effect on anybody, because that's why I love music. When you feel like you can relate to the song, it makes you feel less alone. If someone writes a piece of music and you're like, oh God, me too. Like that's really, you find a lot of solace and comfort in knowing that other people have experienced and endured hardships and, or really happy moments or anything. It's really special to think that you could have that same effect.
Mm-hmm. When you're playing live, and you've brought this up a lot, so I think to me that's actually really cool because I like going to concerts live, and I see that the artist is aware of their audience. I do feel that connection. I see that from your comments, you guys feel that connection already. But when you jump on stage, what do you what goes through your head? What are the things that worry you? What are the things that console you? What when you're initially going up there, what's the mind doing?
Where's my beer? Is my beer by my amp?
Remove the beer from the amp.
It's like, here we go. Let's do this. Get everything set, and just like wait for like the click in, and it's just like that like initial buildup of just like, first note, like song starts, and then you're like in it, I don't know, it's like that rush of adrenaline. It's not like stage fright or anything, I think, for us anymore, but it's just like, like, okay,
it's evolved
like
form.
The snowball is rolling, like, let's build it, let's see how big we can get it like this time, like, I don't know, just give it your all for like that short amount of time that you're on stage,
So do you feel it goes by fast? Or?
So fast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Depends. If something's wrong, it'd be the longest set of your life.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
20 minutes or something. You're like, oh my god.
Just like,
Where is
And it does happen.
I want to bring this up because I think it's an important part to know that audiences or fans sometimes don't get to see, but whether it's a natural example or a situation, but what are the things that go wrong, whether it's noticeable to the public, because I know that I've been to so many concerts that I sometimes realize they messed up, but nobody else knows, and it just keeps going. I'm sure they're very aware of it.
Yeah.
What are some of those things
know.
that happen, either have happened to you or that tend to happen, that just kind of messes up the vibe in your head?
So I have a good one. So like when the adrenaline's really building, you're going on stage and you're getting ready and everything's going, and you jump on stage and you realize you have to take a piss. The worst feeling in the world, because what do?
You pee
Oh,
your
time out,
pants like Fergie.
You can't just leave, so you just gotta stick it out and hope to God you don't lose it. Or if you do, you own it.
For me in the past, and I still do this, I don't speak up when I need more of my vocal in the monitor, because on stage, maybe with more experience, I will be better at this. But if I can't hear myself, then I won't sing very well. And we do a lot. Our performances are very harmony driven. Everyone sings.
Yeah,
these guys are really good at singing. So if I'm flat or not hitting the right notes, everything is just off. And some people will notice, some people won't if they're just excited and into it. But we notice, and that just throws me. I'm like, shit. Like I messed up.
She gets angry.
I get very angry.
Do you get to, or have you gotten to recover from it mid-show, or is it
totally.
like crap, this didn't really work out, get better the next time?
I mean, usually you can recover. By the next song, you're like, okay, so this is, I need to be paying closer attention, or I need to tell the sound guy I need more of this, or usually you recover.
Yeah, haven't broken a string in the middle of a song yet.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
But yeah, I think we're also still in the beginning phases of getting our live set down. We really haven't played that many shows.
Yeah, that's like still like the blessing is like, it's like something doesn't go exactly right or how we wanted it. It's like, what, like we're still figuring this out. Like we're still just bringing it up. Like it's not at full force yet, and it still has so much growth like to be had. Like so it's always like keep that in the back of your mind or at the front of your mind. Like don't get too down on yourself. Like we're still experimenting. We're still figuring it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have one more. One of my favorite memories, like learning to play. I've always taken pride in how crappy my gear is, especially because it looks cool on stage.
Yeah. No.
And one time I was playing and I was jamming on this keyboard and my stand collapsed, and so all of it just went all over the ground on the stage, and the whole audience was like, "Oh no!" That was interesting. So I picked it up and like held it, kind of like just carried it and continued playing, so it was all right.
That's impressive.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it's probably heavy.
I would have just sat down on the floor.
Yeah, right?
Schroeder it?
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest risk at the point that you're, with the project that is kind of lingering there? Not necessarily that it's something that you might feel like, this is building up and getting to a bad place. I just mean in terms of things that you care about, that you're trying to be careful, that you consider something, that you want to avoid.
Joe?
Yes. So.
Better.
Yes. No. I think the songwriting, really. We're trying to keep this like very, very tightly within the family and collaborative, but also good. And that actually can be very difficult to do well, is to write good songs together. Mm-hmm. That can be really hard because everyone has these different styles and ideas, and that balance of letting everyone's ideas in, but also have it be as good as it could possibly be, is really, really hard.
Yeah, you just have to be extremely selfless in that
Exactly.
in that way, is because it's like if you have an idea and you're totally about it and you're like, oh, but I like it how it goes like this, and we've already like run across like this like before, you know. It's like not strange to any of us. It's like, oh, but I really like it like this, and then Joe's like, oh, but I think it should be like this, and it just is a matter of like not being like
what's best for the
airhead.
song.
Yeah, like just don't be a jackass, don't be an airhead and like fool yourself to be like, no, my way's the best. Just be like, okay, and drop it and hear it out from everyone. And if it's like we don't really know what's best between us three, take it to Jimmy and be like, what do you think, you know? Because like, you know, and he'll give us like a solid response. And then like it's always nice to be like, oh, let's let go of this for a second, you know. Third party, like, what do you think?
Mm-hmm.
And like a very validated third party at that, you know what I mean? Like, okay,
Yeah,
we'll take your word for it, and then like go from there.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, because there's one thing, a subject I wanted to dive into, and I think Maddi, you might be able to talk more to this, but I've read in a couple interviews the concept of babe rock, and I don't know if that was something that was assigned to you or you brought up, but you know, can you dwell a little bit into that?
It's kind of taken on its own thing. It was more of a joking, you know, phrase that I heard from my friend. My friend said it once, trying to describe this sound of this girl band. I don't remember who, and he was like, "Yeah, it's just babe rock." And I thought it was so funny, so I just started saying it. And people seem to really like it, you know?
Yeah, be like, that makes sense.
Yeah, like babe rock. Like it kind of does make sense. Just like,
totally.
like to me, babe rock is like a powerful woman or man. Just, it's sort of it's less of like, oh yeah, she's a babe, you know, in like a physical sense. And more like, oh, this is powerful, this is a statement, this means something, you know, like not dainty, if that makes sense.
Well, and then, you know, considering that I think most of, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most of the EP material lyric-wise is you're the author, or
yeah,
for
the most part, but then everyone, you know, comes in and we.
It's a soup.
Yeah.
Where did you get the inspiration to take the songs lyrically to where they are? I mean, you're talking or touching topics or subjects that, to me, and this is you know, my experience with the music is that the topic as a general thing, I think, is not very uncommon. However, the way that it's presented in the song or in the context of the song is very particular. I did find that it wasn't, you know, it's not like I'm hearing a sappy, you know, song about it. It's not about like, oh, I'm going through hardship, or oh, life is so great. I found that there were, you know, just phrases that just gave it way more substance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I'm curious to find out where that comes from. Is that truly just from your experiences, or were you influenced to take the lyrics to a certain place, or even avoiding other places?
All the songs are drawn from personal experiences and feelings and situations, and so it's sort of my way of getting things off my chest and moving on, or therapy, or just like coming clean, just being honest. I think that, you know, it helps me come to terms with a lot of things in my life when I write a song about it. And I don't see the point in not being as honest and raw as you can be when writing a song, because like, who cares? You gotta, you know.
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
Yeah, and I don't like beating around the bush, and I don't want to, you know, soften the blow when I'm writing a song, because I don't think that's not what songwriting is to me.
Yeah.
I think it should be truthful.
Yeah, being in that position though too, like I can relate to Maddi on that. Like one of my songwriting buddies or whatever, like he's a great writer, writes all the time, like so much more in quantity than like anything else. But like that's what you got to do, you know. But he told me one time, like I showed him something that I wrote, and he's like, dude, I wish I could write this way, because like I allow myself to be very vulnerable lyrically, you know, like I put it all out there. Like I'm not trying to put a facade or be incredibly metaphoric to the point where it's like, what the hell is this guy talking about? You know what I mean? That's very vague, and you get lost in that, you know? And like, you know, he said like, wish I could do that, but like I like, you know, it's like hard to really put yourself out there. But then again, when you can and you allow yourself to do that, it's very like relieving, and it's like fresh to hear that, because it's not like all lulling and like crazy, like makes no sense almost, like just to the point. You can like anyone can relate to it, like when you really reach deep.
Have you written anything that after you've written it and heard it back, or even just read it, that you said, okay, where did that come from? Or that you restricted because you either feel it's, you know, not necessarily what you intended to express, or just didn't sound right? Or as you're writing, is that like, it is what it is, that's what came out and that's what it is?
All of the above.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. A lot of times you could like sing some lyric or whatever to somebody that you trust, who's got a good ear and a good taste, and just see how it affects them. You know, like with these songs, when we perform them just acoustically with a piano and guitar, like the other day we were just doing it at Al's house, and his mother walks in, she's just like, you guys sound good. And we're just like, whoa. So that means that there's somebody who, you know, just like without us even trying, right? We're just focusing on creating this sound in the moment. It's affecting people. And so that's kind of like the proof of concept. It's to surround yourself with people that you can trust in that way. And then using that kind of as an indicator, you know, like your inner circle as best you can.
No, I'm glad you brought this up. One thing I want to comment, and why I was interested in touching these subjects, was that I came across an article that was on Consequence of Sound, which is a publication that I actually like and feel very entertaining. And you know, I'm not saying it just because you guys are here, but I did feel like it was just cut too short, and it didn't allow for like a lot of insight into it. And I was just like wondering, I'm like, this is the, you know, bread and butter. Like we should be able to know more of these things, because as artists and musicians, you're you know, unless you do take the route of trying to put a facade, most of the time you're putting yourself out there. It's an exposure of something that's way more within. The reason why I bring it up is because, you know, like I'm sure you all had this experience, but you have your friends that have known you for a while, and you write something, and then you finally show it, and then it's like, oh, I didn't know that about you. And it's kind of interesting that those things do come from a place that aren't always out there for the public, even you know, close family members or close friends. And I was interested in that because I felt like it just glanced very, you know, briefly over like the lyrics or what the author was feeling with them, but didn't really dive into that. And I felt like, you know, that was missing there. I felt like there has to be a more significant role in the lyric process, especially now that, I mean, I think the article was written before the band as it is now was done, but I still felt like there was more to be said in that sense.
I agree. It's cool that you noticed that. Yeah, Consequence of Sound releases so many articles every day.
Yeah, I understand that part, and I just felt like
you wanted more.
Like more, and I'm like, I'm glad that I have you guys over here again.
Yeah, that's really
cool.
Ask. I want to find out.
I want to know. I need answers. Then you did live at Jam in the van.
Yeah.
How was that experience for you guys?
Before my time.
Tell them. I mean, I'll speak. I think that one was hard for us.
Yeah.
It was incredibly hard because
we didn't have a lot of time.
Well, we'd finished the EP the week before, and we'd done it with all these crazy synths and all of this stuff that we couldn't do there. We couldn't do any of the production that we had originally planned and built and spent months on. So we had to reinvent in 3 days all of the songs arranged in sort of a 70s manner.
Keep going.
And it was just like, I mean, we played with Jimmy, we played with an amazing drummer, very talented musicians, but for us at that time, that was not the right move, I think.
Yeah.
For how they made the sound, and then like, because we couldn't really hear ourselves, it was kind of just like willy-nilly crammed in this van, and we were just...
Cram in the van, that's what
that's a better name, cram in the van. So, I mean, they were amazing people, don't get us wrong.
Yeah, it was a fun experience,
but
we weren't prepared for it.
Right,
No.
and that's something I wanted to bring up, if, you guys felt the same way, but I did feel that, like, this is not a comparison anyway, but the Tiny Desk concert series allows for different arrangements, and you kind of get to explore the songs in a different way.
Yes.
Having heard, like Fantasy, and is it Punch?
Face Punch.
Yeah. And I heard the versions there. They did sound different. And I wasn't quite sure if that was, intentional to the point where it was like, okay, it has to sound this way, or if it was a restriction, which is actually, what I'm getting a sense of.
Right. Well, there is a brilliance and a beauty to rearranging songs in a different manner, which we have done now, I think, in a very effective way. But that was actually a very, very deep process in itself for us. Like, we had to sit down and completely rebuild these songs from scratch with guitar, just very simple elements. And in that rawness, we found a whole nother way of making this sound.
Mm-hmm.
But then we just didn't have enough time to do that. Like, the approach was right, the idea was right, but the execution was just not there yet.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
It's actually been super cool to rearrange these songs in an acoustic way, because it brings to light a whole other part of the music.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you a different experience. Used to Be Mine, when we played that acoustically, it's way more like groovy and soulful, and you hear the song differently. Mm-hmm. You hear it in less of an upbeat, this is fun, funky dance. It's you really listen to the lyrics, and it's more of a heartfelt, deeper experience, in my opinion. Yeah. Even performing it feels like it's coming from a different place.
Yeah, it's a good song.
Yeah, it's a good song.
Good song.
So now I just want to wrap up with a couple of things. First, what are your present plans? What are you guys doing in the
just want to play shows.
And you do have one coming up.
We got two.
I will be attending.
Yeah.
Next Wednesday, August 16th?
15th.
15th.
Is that a Wednesday? Yeah, because the 16th.
So.
Yeah.
I hope so. If not,
Yeah.
I'll add tickets to the wrong place. Where's Mad Hawks?
There's a couple of Mad Hawks.
August 15th at the Study
Mm-hmm.
in Hollywood. And then we're playing the following day at Harvard and Stone as well.
Okay.
But don't tell them that.
Don't tell, we're not supposed to play 2 shows back to back. Shh.
It's
We'll keep that on the
clause,
record.
performance clause.
Yeah.
And then, this could be a broad response from you guys, but in terms of future plans, give it a couple of years or a few years.
I would like to collect a lot of our fans and build a commune.
Go live up.
Go live in Oregon music every day.
It would be my.
I want to be touring, out of the country in a few years.
Maddie doesn't like America anymore.
I just like to travel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just want to. I got back from Mexico last night, and I'm leaving again tomorrow morning. I'm going right back there. I got it. I just like to experience different places, and I think music is a great catalyst for that. If we can do it both, and I want to tour. I want to have an album. I would love to, get into the festival circuit and start playing all those festivals. I think that's a great way to build a fan base.
Yeah.
That's my goal for the next few years.
I
think that's the whole point. You just you perform.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to be gone 300 days out of the year. Traveling the world, like playing a show like every night, every other night. It's like.
That's the dream.
Yeah, that's the point.
That's the goal, That's my dream about it. Is what
I want to put the music in front of as many people as possible.
Yeah, I want
And it
Come
should
to
be.
us. Yeah.
It's good music, and we want that to happen
Thank
for
you.
sure. I like to do a quick round of questions at the end of the show with all our guests. It's meant to go relatively fast, quick answers.
Okay.
Cool.
All of you can answer if you want, or if you want to skip it, you can skip it.
Pizza.
Just to get a little bit more knowledge into who you are and what you like.
Let's get it.
So let's go ahead and
That's who I am.
start with this.
Yes.
Most influential artist.
Ooh.
Joe.
Me. Pizza.
Jeez.
Amy Winehouse for me.
Ooh.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. First album or music that you bought on your own.
Puff the Magic Dragon.
Ooh, first record I ever bought was Disraeli Gears by
Nice.
Cream. That was the first vinyl I ever bought on.
I don't
That's a dark
remember.
reference right there.
Really?
I think it was Outkast speaker box for me.
Nice, dude.
I think so, yeah.
Classic.
Best concert you've ever been to.
Ooh.
Damn.
John Prine, hands down.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That was
I don't know.
Guy was a monster in his like 80s and just still
Best
killing it.
concert I ever went to.
Ever.
Dang.
I have no idea.
Been
That's
to like
hard.
a couple festivals, so it might have been like one of those experiences. Actually, yeah, best show I ever saw. I saw Norah Jones in San Francisco at Outside Lands. I was on acid, and Bob Weir from the Grateful Dead came out on stage with her and her band. They played It Must Have Been the Roses, and that was the most beautiful thing I ever saw. It was so cool.
That sounds cool.
Now, who do you regret not being able to see in concert or live?
Like everyone.
Michael Jackson.
Paganini.
Who?
Niccolo Paganini. He's this like super weird violinist from the 1800s who apparently everyone said looked like the devil when he played. Because he shreds so hard.
And did not know.
Check him out, he's cool.
I want anyone to complete this phrase. Music is best enjoyed.
Pizza.
I don't know. Always.
Yeah, in so many different ways. On the beach with like some buddies and some beers, or just at home alone, like throwing on a vinyl
With some
Yeah.
with some
With
beers.
some beers. Usually with some beers.
Stone it.
No, this is a good question. I really enjoy. What song do you wish you had written?
Peanut butter jelly.
Jesus.
You know?
Man.
No?
Lately I've been
Peanut butter jelly time.
Peanut butter
jelly time.
peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly in a baseball bat.
Genius.
That one. Oh
It's
man,
so
I don't
stupid
know. That's
simple.
a really hard one. There's too many good
I don't know.
songs.
I don't think I would have. I would like to say I wish I would have written like a classic song that I enjoy. It's like I'm glad that person wrote it. You know, like
Yeah.
I'm gonna be satisfied and wait and
I have no
strive
idea
to
what song.
write one of
I'm
those
serious
songs.
with mine.
Well, I mean,
How can you
that's
take
a fair,
something
that's a
so
fair answer.
basic
for
and
sure.
very-
True. Yeah. I don't know.
Best and worst part of being a musician.
Best and worst for me.
At the same time.
The
It
attention.
could be different things, but
The attention is the best and the worst part for me.
True. Yeah.
Because you can't have an off day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That is true. That's difficult.
It's tough. No bad hair days.
Being broke is good and bad. You have to be creative when you have no money.
It's true.
But then
Yeah.
at the same time, like,
Yeah.
you have no money. At the same time, you live with your parents and your car doesn't work. So.
I don't know. I think it's kind of all good. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was having a great time.
I'm just having a ball over here, just loving it, living it up.
You need to challenge your ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or kick your ass.
Maybe in the parking lot, Al.
What instrument do you wish you could play as good as your
Saxophone.
Ooh.
Sax.
I wish I could play the upright bass. I think that's really
Clarinet,
cool.
For sure.
clarinet?
But
You know,
I
like
did
that
play
OG
saxophone, but not that well.
I mean,
I'm
I
on
could
my
blow
way.
the clarinet.
The next album will have.
Next album will just
Yeah.
have destructive saxophone all over
Oh
it.
God.
8-minute solo.
Yeah. Just crazy, love supreme
We'll
stuff.
auto-tune it. That is sort of an idea. Auto-tune saxophone.
Let's do it.
Damn.
Don't put that in. Someone's gonna rip us off.
Yeah.
Well, I own the rights to this, so it's gonna be me.
So it's definitely.
Wait, what? I didn't sign anything.
Biggest guilty pleasure.
Oh, hates that.
Jesus, Joe.
Sorry.
Oh, you have to be guilty about it?
Yeah, biggest
Maybe not.
pleasure.
Biggest pleasure.
Dixie Chicks.
Biggest guilty pleasure.
They're pretty good.
Frick.
Biggest guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure.
Throwing on a dress. Throwing on a dress. Letting my girlfriends fucking paint my face with makeup. I don't know why. I think it's just I laugh.
It's a good
that
time.
they're enjoying it. I don't know. If 4 girls
What's your
just putting you in a dress. It's kind of tight.
What's your biggest guilty pleasure?
My biggest guilty
Yeah.
pleasure? Miley Cyrus's last album. I can't get enough of it.
There it is.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. The song Malibu is actually, to me, the production value on that whole album is
Yeah.
really good, and I'm gonna take the stage here a little bit, but I think it's her best work because it matches what her voice is like, how artistic she could be if it's an artistic approach.
Yeah.
Everything else, you know, opinions are opinions, but to me that is like, it surprised me. I found myself for the first time ever listening to that, to her material, and not like let me hear this so I can criticize it. It was like, I'm enjoying this. Like,
Yeah. Nice.
so, yeah, that's mine. Last question. What is
Love
the
it.
best advice that you can give?
Don't do it.
To who?
Anyone.
Anyway.
Don't do
The
it.
children.
Don't compare yourself to anyone or anything, because that sucks. You just don't want to do
There
it.
you go.
Yeah.
Follow your gut instinct, that thing that they call your heart. Do that. You want to do
Yeah.
something, do it. You don't want to do something,
Don't do it.
don't do it. But just make sure that you're doing what you love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like trying to be somewhere else, trying to make it up the ladder.
It's very eloquent.
Don't get stuck sitting in your ass. Yeah.
Those are really good answers, and thank you. I appreciate you guys being
Yeah.
here. It's been a lot of fun, and
Thank you.
I'm glad that we got
Thank
to touch on more in-depth things that I'm sure your fan base will love, and
Yeah, right.
general public for sure.
Right.
Wish you guys the best, and then just to go over the dates again, you will be playing a show on August 15th in
At the
At
study.
the study.
Study in Hollywood.
In Hollywood, yeah. On Hollywood Boulevard.
Okay.
Hollywood.
And then where can people find you, find your material? And
Everywhere.
Spotify, iTunes,
iTunes.
YouTube,
Apple Music.
Apple Music, that's iTunes.
But it's not anymore.
On the iCloud.
I actually had one quick question
Dropbox.
that I
Yes.
completely forgot. Mad Hawks, where does the name come from?
That's my name, Maddie Hawks. So it didn't take a lot of brain power to come up with that one.
The sweetest, most enjoyable experience creating the name ever.
Yeah.
I've sat there for hours just what the hell is our band name gonna be? Like, oh.
Yeah.
You know what's a bad band name? Bald.
Bald.
I don't know.
Might be a good band name.
Oh, okay. Well, there we
I
go.
don't know.
Again,
Uh-huh.
rights, it's taken. All right, well, thanks a lot, you guys. It's been
Yeah.
a pleasure having you here, and
Thank you.
we'll play some of your material here, material for our audience, and put some links, and let people discover you.
Right.
Thank you.
Much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So that was Mad Hawks. That was Maddi on vocals, Alec on guitar, and Joe on synth. And it was a pleasure having them with us. It's an honor, and I could not recommend them more to our audience. We're playing Fantasy here at the end, and take a listen. Face Punch is one of my absolute favorite songs from their EP, and all things aside, I think that they have the artistic value that anybody could enjoy, but those who are looking for new material, new mixes of different genres, different styles will really enjoy this music, both listening to the recorded material as well as watching them live. They are an amazing band and worth keeping on your radar. We wish them the best and hope you enjoy them as well. Please join us on our next episode, and here is Fantasy.